have you? Okay.
Hey. Alrighty. We are at the second Thursday of the month again. These months go super fast at the moment, Barbara.
I know. Where's the time gone? Unbelievable.
Oh,
good to see you again, Simonne.
Super good to see you, Barbara. Such a treat. I was going to say a pleasure, but that's what everybody says. It's a real treat.
It's a treat, so. Likewise. I like treats.
Yeah, so, okay, we're just waiting for people to come on. We'll go, oh, gosh, everyone's bang on time. We love that. Okay, so I'll just do a bit of housekeeping. And welcome to everybody that's come on. It's so good to see you all here and all on time. You know, we start on time, we finish on time. We really value your time. So in this one, this is about the 3 steps to resilience. And if you saw my live or any of the posts that we did about it, this is about, you know, deeper events that happen, not just the mild events that might cause us stress when we're already highly stressed. So we're really wanting to address the deeper, more traumatic issues so that we can give you some tools. Barbara's going to talk about that around trauma and all of those things. So with housekeeping, if you have got one toe in and one toe out of this webinar or interview, I really would love you to value all of our time and your own especially, and give this 100% or give whatever you're doing 100%. These interviews are always recorded and they will be shared to you if you've registered. They will be shared to you tomorrow by a link that you'll have 7 days to view it. So whilst I'd love you to stay and engage live, because that's definitely the best way to do it, if you are really pressured by something outside, then go do it well, do it 100%, and we'll have this link here for you tomorrow. Obviously, I've got a blurry background today, which is not like me. I usually am at home. I'm having to do this remote, but that's just about being adaptable. And so don't mind the background there. So really anything else, your Zoom tools, I think that it's almost got to the point where we don't even have to cover the Zoom tools anymore, because I am sure everybody here has been on a Zoom call, a webinar, or any type of online event. But just in case, it's on the toolbar down the bottom. You can write questions into the chat at any time. Please, when we're running these things, and Barbara runs these a lot as well, is that it's the thing that we lose with not doing these live, is that we lose that energy from you out there and we can't even see you. So the chat is our way of seeing you. So it would be super fabulous if you could put anything in the chat. Hi, hey Barbara, hey Simonne, how are you going? Yes, Stephanie. So just let us know where you're from, just anything in there, just let us know you're there. If you've got any questions along the way, then just throw them into the chat. We'll be monitoring that. Steph, who's in there, is going to type out some of the gold nuggets that comes out of Barbara's mouth, and maybe there might be 1 or 2 out of mine, who knows. And she'll keep that up in there as well. But it would just be lovely to see. Hey Pete, nice to see you from Waiheke, beautiful. It would just be lovely to get some action in there. It's really good for us as people that are running it. And Barbara, you love that stuff too, right? Absolutely.
Bring it
awesome.
on, the questions. Yes, we're looking forward to that.
Yeah. So we want to really get a whole lot of questions today. Want to be very specific. Of course, Barbara's got some things she really wants to cover off today, but hopefully we're really hoping that you've come along with some great questions and can tap into Barbara's intel there. Yeah. Awesome. Cool. So I'll just, in the chat, we've got a few. Oh, nice. Gina, great to see you. Awesome. There's some cool people on here. Well, no surprises, is it really? Excellent. Okay, so Barbara, here we are again. I just cannot even remember how many years we've known each other now.
8.
Is it 8 years? Gosh. Here we go. Hey, Bev, Angela.
Yeah.
Okay, so I met you when we were in Kerikeri, right? So quite some time ago. And Barbara, you'd relocated from Christchurch at that time, is that right? That's how we came upon you, yeah.
That's right. I had been on a caravan journey nearly 2 years after the earthquake. And then my caravan came to a halt here, and I wanted to settle. And that's where I met you. Yes, you helped me draft a business plan. And thanks to you, I discovered that I spent $35,000 on my education so far. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yes.
And it's
Barbara,
lovely that we stayed in touch. I really appreciate that. And I really appreciate you.
Oh, well, the feeling's purely mutual. It's just and awesome to see you doing so well. I just love it. Just love it. I just feel so privileged to do this work and to work with people like yourself. And yeah, gosh, yeah. So Barbara was just the shining light when I met her, and had just so many interesting stories to tell. So I hope we get to hear some of those today. So let's get into it. So I don't sort of like to label people too much, but just I'd love you to tell people why it is that we're going to sit here like this, listening to everything you say with bated breath about trauma resilience.
No pressure, Simonne.
Not at all.
Let's get people into the room. Yeah, thanks for your housekeeping, but let's keep people into the room.
Sounds beautiful.
And just see what you see, hear what you hear, feel what you feel, smell what you smell, and taste what you taste. 10 seconds of presence. Kia ora tātou, ko Alps te Maunga, ko Danube te awa, no Tiamana ahau, ko Belger tōku whānau, ko Barbara tōku ingoa. Hi, my name is Barbara. And I'm excited. It's such a, I want to create a new word there. It's excited has been used so much. And, but yeah, we have one more participant walking in the back. I'm at home. We are grounded at the moment in level 3. So if you see a little tail, that's not a possum, that's my little doggy walking in the background. So it's really good to be here. Thank you. I would like to agree with your participants whether we can acknowledge each other's best and give each other's best. And I assume that your audience is bookkeepers and accountants. And I'd like to cater actually to what they are already good at. And I'm assuming that people are very good in your field of work. They're very good in planning, in calculating, in balancing, and in systematic thinking. And that will be really useful in learning skills and improving skills. And that is what I hope I can give you today. And so from my side, I'll also give you my best. And I hope we can agree on that I'll deliver my skills. I trained in many fields, and recently in mental health and addiction and mental health first aid. I started many years ago at a diploma level as a life coach, NLP, hypnotherapy, and became a trainer in a mind-body related health modality. Also, before that, I worked as a language translator. So I speak 4 European languages, and later got a basic knowledge into 3 Asian languages. Experience in marketing and sales, and as a translator in international, went to international trade fairs, fashion shows in Florence and Paris. Worked for large, obviously, corporate people. Then moved to Asia. Got married, moved to Asia, and lived there for 17 years, and came to New Zealand. So the agreement that I'd like us to have, if that's okay, and please, you see the chat there, right, Simonne?
Yeah, I can see.
If that's okay for everyone, that we go into a little bit new learning. We see if we get some new learning.
A bit of woo. Oh, a bit of woo, Barbara. Is that what you said?
And a bit give you a 3-step process that you practice, and understanding the what and the how. And if that's okay with everybody, just give me a heads up, thumbs up.
All right, so you want us to agree to stepping into a little bit of woo with a 3-step process. So no, can we drive while we're wooing? You can woo all the way you want, Barbara. These are freestyle interviews, so you woo all over us.
Cool. Okay, so where did my let me start. Let me try and share my screen here. Hold on a second, please.
Oh, hey, Catherine. How nice to see you. Catherine will definitely be into the woo.
Yeah.
All right.
Here we go. Share screen.
Need the music going.
That's right. Yeah, share that.
Beautiful. So just let us know in the chat that you can see that share screen. Yeah, has everybody got that? Just want to make sure that it's there. Yep, great. Excellent. Thanks, Claudine, Steph. Beautiful. All right. Is this your Christchurch, yeah?
That's North Canterbury on the 5th of September. On the 4th of September was the earthquake. I went into Kaipoi on the 5th in the morning to check on friends, and that's what I saw.
Wow. Wow.
So at that time, sorry about the quality.
It's okay.
At that time, driving over there, I didn't know whether I was going to be able to drive back home, whether if another earthquake would have happened, I wouldn't have access to my sons who were in Rangiora. I was in Kaipoi, and I had no idea what to expect. So yeah, I thought I'd just share a little bit of that.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's been a very impactful time for New Zealand, for sure. And also for those of you that were involved in it, for sure.
That's right. So let me stop sharing. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Here we are.
Oh, good.
So what resulted from that was and again, that is developing the 3-step process. I went back home, had a list of what to do, laminated a poster. What I could see in the emergency center is that nobody was catering for the extreme stress that people had experienced, traumatized people.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went back, got a few supplies, water and phone chargers for telephones, and laminated a big poster, feeling traumatized, come and talk to us, called a good friend, and together we set up in the Kaipoi Rugby Club and stayed there for 13 days, volunteering, working. Wow. The civil defense gave us 4 camper vans actually to work from. We had some more counselors joining us. And what first responders saw, that whatever we were doing with our work seemed to really be effectful. So people, were really stressed. And after a few days, of course, and that brings me to what I'd like to talk a bit about in a moment, people's stress level turned into anger. And we quite often see this. And not many people could deal with it. You know, it's a cultural thing. Anger is not so very well accepted. And I just said, bring it on. I can deal with anger. I know where people are coming from. So that was that, and it resulted in our NLP trauma recovery group receiving government contracts after the second earthquake. So we worked with government contracts for, well, until I left Christchurch, end of 2011. And that was an amazing learning curve. And so I'll talk a little bit about what I noticed then. Was one client I worked with, so it was hundreds of people altogether we worked with. And that happened later a few more times. She felt very, very guilty about not being able, she wasn't able to, when the big earthquake happened, to crawl out from under her table and help her children. And she said, what kind of a mother am I? As a mother, I should be, you know, being active and be able to help my children. And that got me fascinated even more with trauma. And I thought, you know, what happened there? And that's really what I'd like to address most of all today. That's this freeze response. And so
not just the trauma from being in the event, the earthquake, but then also the emotions and the trauma that comes with how you responded to that or didn't respond.
So yes, so the trauma is your body mind system being overwhelmed. It's just too much, and you decide or not whether you react or not, but it's all a little bit out of control, and that's important to notice. And where I see this happening also in my one-on-one work is, I'll give you a little story, and I'm allowed to share the story without mentioning names. For the sake of today, I'll call the person Ben. It could be a her or a him. And this person became a client, arrived at my doorstep saying the issues were depression, the issue were addiction, and he just couldn't. He was an engineer and he just felt really uncomfortable working in an environment in a large office with cubicles, and wanted out of that and wanted out of the relationship and just wanted constantly between depressed and wanting out, right? And so after a while, after a couple of sessions, we got to understand that where the place he was born, the practice was babies from very early age on, 6 weeks, came into a child minding service. Later I saw a big research written about that actually. So the babies were put in their little beds, and there was a feeding rhythm every 3 hours or every 4 hours, and in between nobody tended to them. And so that is still, it's very shocking that it's still in a lot of baby education, that is still a practice. Let them cry it out. And it's unbelievable nowadays. And so the baby's nervous system was in fight flight, which means getting attention. They need you to tend to them. And when that didn't happen, they dropped into freeze. Okay, nobody does anything. I will just wait. And of course, in the institutions, they thought, okay, now they've calmed down, and now we can look after them, which was all with good intent, but horrendous side effects for many, many people. So that brings me into what actually happens in this circumstance. We've got two things happening here. One is the what they call, naturopaths would call it the Hpa Axis. So that is your hypothalamus, pituitary gland, and your adrenal cortex, which triggers your hormonal system. So that is your amygdala, is your alarm center. Notices something, your brain always, your mind wants to keep you safe, right? So it does its job, and it's really, really good at it.
Yep.
And it triggers a warning, this is dangerous. We've got to do something now. And then usually it's cortisol and fight-flight hormones that then come into action, right? When this carries on, when this becomes a chronicity, chronos comes from time, of course. So if it carries on for over length of time, that is where you get the chronic fatigue. Your organs are all exhausted because you're constantly on adrenal high. You may experience thyroid changes, and it's just your whole hormonal system is actually out of whack. That is a good idea to have that checked, and I'll come into the solutions a little bit later. The second thing that's happening, and that is where I focused my work on, is something that is Dr. Stephen Porges coined the polyvagal theory, and that addresses the vagus nerve. And your vagus nerve is from the top, is your largest nerve. It actually is attached to every organ. And
what's the name of it again? Sorry, Barbara.
Vagus.
Vagus.
V-A-G-U-S.
Yes, Vagus.
Yeah. It's my German accent. So the vagus nerve consists also of two structures. One is the new part, the myelinated part of the vagus nerve. So that kind of, we can access that with our thinking, with we can access the unmyelinated part of it. That is where the freeze response happens. That is where there's no language, there are no words for it. That is where we think, I have no idea what just happened. And it's really difficult to navigate that until you find a way of realizing what's happening. So what I actually, let me see what I want to just do. Give me a second, please. I want to share that again. So you can see that now, right?
Yeah, I can see that beautifully.
That is what I call the Vagal Ladder, and that is navigating. This is something I give everyone, every client nearly, and I will put in a little handbook that I'm happy to share with your attendees here if they're interested. That is a way to calibrate where you are actually at. So you see here, when you're in safe mode, when you're in ventral vagal safe mode, this myelinated part of your vagal nerve, you're calm, grounded, you're connected with people, you have a peripheral vision, you actually notice what's going on. Your social engagement system is intact, your heart rate is regular, your breathing is regular, and you're ready to learn, you're ready to attend like we are here. You're capable of problem solving, and you're in a parasympathetic state, so that is in a balanced state, and you're able to communicate well. Then when you go down the vagal ladder, in a moment of danger, again, our body-mind system doesn't make mistakes. It does so on purpose. That is where, you remember, the adrenal comes on, cortisol rushes in, and all these hormones that give you power. It sends all the energy to your limbs. It shuts down your digestive system, for example, because all you need in fight flight is just, you need your legs and you need your arms mainly. You know? So that's where you notice your state is then more of an anxious, worrying, you're agitated. like, I don't know about you, but here, because I'm a bit excited, so I want to give my best. I go and notice I'm a bit agitated and not frantic or whatever, but it's just a little bit of that nervous thing coming on, and in a good way, you know. And then because I know how to regulate and I know how to breathe to calm myself down, I'm still loving you there, Simonne. I see your picture. My world is not dangerous, but this is when you're in that flight, the world seems dangerous. You know, you accelerate your breathing, obviously, your blood pressure increases, and you start as a fight flight. We have evolved, so we're not cave people anymore necessarily, not all of us. And so so instead of fighting a dangerous predator or something, we still have fight flight responses, but we do it in a verbal way. We attack, we blame, we judge, you know, all this rage and panic. That is a fight flight response. Further down, like I explained, the lady under the table who couldn't save her children. They were all safe, nothing happened to them, but she just had an enormous guilt until she started to work through it. So a little bit further down the ladder, you drop into your dorsal vagal. So that is where your system shuts down. It's a life threat. Your system thinks it's a life threat. And that's the freeze response. Right. And so if you just see here on the screen what I've written, the overwhelm, shame, hopelessness, feeling alone, abandoned, shut down. So it's this generalized darkness of the world. How many people do you know who are like that? They navigate between that, you know, you call it, I mean, you could call it depression. I just really think that is where this sits in. So knowing that this is a system where you constantly navigate up and down, and learning how to navigate and how to strengthen your vagal tone is part of our 3-step process here. Okay.
Beautiful. Yeah, love it.
The other part that we will talk about later is that is your and my strength together, Simonne. Neurons, don't we love them?
Yay! Love me a bit of neuron.
And axons and neurotransmitters and neural networks. Oh yes, that's our world. How fascinating. So yeah, so that was that with the share, and then I thought I'll go into a little bit what I understand as resilience. As Simonne created a beautiful blurb for our little gathering today, and it is, like I said, it's not just cotton wooling and think happy thoughts. It's actually being in there and being able to be in there and getting up over and over again. So, and what I've, like, if not, even birth is really traumatic, you know, but through birth, we learn and we grow, and life is it's constantly like that. There's something happening, and then we at some stage we get into the learning. So that is my definition of resilience. Apart from all else, it is, and it always has been, crises have always been evolutionary drivers for humanity. And what we are in at the moment, what we are at the moment in our pandemic, or whatever you want to call it, is a crisis, and it is an evolutionary driver. And I welcome it. I just really, and what we can't do in the beginning in a crisis is use unresourceful questions. We can't ask, why does this always happen? Or what if it never stops? That is not a very resourceful thing to ask in this moment. And just the way, in my understanding, an accountant's or a bookkeeper's brain works, I look at the format system. I always use the format system. I put a link in my book there as well. And in the format, so the questions are the what, the how, what if, and why. And the good questions to ask are actually, so how and what. Those are good questions to ask yourself, okay? So that is the format system. Now let me just take some notes.
It's interesting that you identify that, Barbara, as, it's not resourceful to ask why, and relating that to the current state of affairs we have, is that, and the coaching, your coaching as well, is that, I was just explaining that this morning around that why is a very challenging question to ask a client, right? We avoid why in that aspect as well, because it's like, why do you do that? Why, if I asked a client that, it would sound like judgment, right? Why is it? Why didn't you get out from under the table? Well,
yes. Yes.
That's not resourceful.
That's right.
Yeah.
And
that, beautiful.
But it is a matter of being aware of that, and if our brain is organized in the format system, that's just how our brain works. And as everything, it is a training. It's like what you do with your clients. You just sound back what's resourceful and what works, and then present tools that may just work a little bit better. And guess what? Once you know how to organize yourself better and how to run your brain better, it's fantastic. Why would you ever go back? It's great. It's just wonderful.
Just amazing.
That's right. Yeah. So let us get into, where am I? So
is this helpful, guys? I'd love to hear in the chat if you're finding this helpful, like this fight, flight, freeze, to get more in depth of the Vagal Ladder and understanding how that presents itself, and the fact that actually we have the ability to navigate that ladder. So yes, while these interviews are targeted at accountants and bookkeepers, we invite anybody, because all of this stuff is just gold for humans. So our target market's really humans. Awesome. Great. Right. Thanks, Dick. Thanks, Claudine.
And
awesome.
Then I think I shared with you last time we spoke what I've been saying to my clients in a one-on-one frame, that I've got a very simple goal. I want world peace. And every client contributes to that, because they just go through their own healing and through their own work.
Yeah. So, and thanks for sharing, Catherine. Appreciate the vulnerability around being fight or flight. And thanks, Nikki. Nice to see you. Love how asking how and what lead to action. And I think the introspection from how and what, rather than, just seemingly judgment from a why. So beautiful. And Pete, can see that I've been in the middle to lower on the ladder a couple of weeks back, more on the rise now. Thanks, Pete.
Fabulous.
God, you guys are amazing.
Fantastic.
Yeah, beautiful. All right.
So my process that I formulated, that I put together, I call the ASP process. So A stands for assess. Step 2, the S stands for shift, and step 3 is P stands for practice. So in a crisis moment, and the crisis moment, it is the assess, notice, observe, and know and realize that most likely these stress responses have now set in. So, for example, your eyes will be like a rabbit in the headlight, right? And just notice like I said, with the accelerated breathing, that just, it's a matter of just observing, and assess what is going on inside and also on the outside. The example I give is, and again, it's a good idea to do a little bit of preparation work, and I'll get to that more in a moment. For example, create a checklist, which, like I lived in one of the countries I lived in was Japan, and the introduction of the checklist made a big difference everywhere in the world. It saved lives also here in New Zealand. It took a long time until, like in the medical field, they introduced checklists. So in Japan, you have these very fast bullet trains, and they're always on time and they always work. And every time a train leaves the station, the conductor or goes through a checklist. And so he's got 8 or whatever points, and he goes and he points and he counts 3, and then 8, and then he blows the whistle, and then you're off. And that is a good idea, especially under stress. So like in the earthquake on the 4th of September, I was thrown out of bed, and I went and checked, okay, my sons were okay, priorities. My house was still standing. I just checked inside, and then, okay, my kitchen was a mess. The pots and pans were ringing like church bells. And then I checked outside. From the outside, the house also seemed okay. There were cracks and things. Then I went onto the road and thought, okay, check on the neighbors. And that was a systematic thing I obviously just did automatically. And then I sat on my deck and just calmed down. And then the birds started singing. They were quiet. That was at 4:30 or something in the morning. And it was totally still. The first few shakes happened, and then the birds came on. And I thought, okay, now let's see what happens. And that's a real resourceful, just to regroup yourself. So just assess. That's the first step. Okay.
Beautiful.
Also, we are used as humans in our evolutionary ladder, let's call it that. We're used to exert more and more control. Like we know how to budget, we know how to project plan and project manage, and that's all fine to create better and better systems and predict them and calculate and all that. There are some situations where you just have to let go of control. There is, and in the 13 days, I told this story so many people, the earthquakes are going to keep happening. You've got to just ground yourself. And just like a fighter pilots actually used to have this training where they keep breathing, and then they get taught to let go of the steering, whatever you call it, and just see what the plane is doing, what it's tumbling, and then gain control again. But first get themselves right and centered again. It's a real important step, because we try to frantically do something, and it's just, so just breathe and just let go. There's some things you can just not control. At the moment,
it's that pattern interrupt, isn't it, Barbara? It's that point where you make that conscious decision. Like, and what I'm hearing is that by having the assess, right, what we're wanting to help people to build a real resilience model, especially to high trauma, is to understand that the checklist, like crisis is crisis, yeah? So what's your checklist? Because your checklist could be different to my checklist, could be different to someone else's checklist. Exactly. Yeah, so that's what I'm hearing, yeah?
Absolutely, yes, spot on.
Beautiful.
It's also, also note, just turn inwards and become aware of your own language that you're using. So to go, oh, you know, what's happening, then it's chaotic, oh God, everything is falling. That is, you know, just do what we did at the beginning, even just a couple of seconds of breathe out, and then come back to keeping the check. Again, something that you could do in now, like Noah built the ark before the flooding happened, remember? So that's yeah, good. Wow, probably conspiracy theory there, but
he had a checklist.
He had a checklist, absolutely. And what he did was actually, and that is something I would recommend. I found that one of the useful tools I learned when I did my mental health and addiction paper a while ago. Create a wellness recovery plan. I'll include that if people are interested. And it just gives you a step-by-step program. What happens to your house in case you get injured or something? Who's feeding the dog? Who has access to my safe or to my bank account, or you know? And it's just, and then what kind of for me, you know, I work with natural remedies, and so there are certain things I'd like not to be done to me. And so in my wellness recovery plan, there are things like, here is my craniosacral therapist, here is my acupuncturist. These are the things that are important to me. And if my leg needs to be amputated, by all means, don't put a crystal on it and give me my horoscope, rush me to the hospital, please, you know?
I love it.
Yeah. So
awesome.
So that's your first step. Just assess, and everyone can do that. That should be a pretty straightforward thing. Then comes the shift. How do you shift? And like we said before, you know, like eyes, rabbit eyes in the headlight. Defocus your eyes. Just like, you know, even if you take your fingers and you notice when you're stressed, you know, you only see, like, I see red or I hear red, you know, because everything is focused, and that is useful in fight flight. But if you wanna come back and go up the vagal ladder, you just defocus. And even if you do this exercise where you just follow your fingers, you know, and put them out to the peripheral vision, that is one very wonderful first step to shift.
Yeah, beautiful.
Breathing is, of course, the A and the O of everything. And you and I talked a lot about heart rate variability or heart coherence. Again, to regulate the vagus nerve, you access your breath. And a good way to access your breath is, first of all, just to notice your breath, and then shift your breath to breathing in through the nose, and then a longer out breath and through the mouth, and just a little bit longer out breath than your in breath, and take a few regular breaths like that. Preferably breathe out with a sigh or a hum. And the reason is because of this Hpa axis and the vagal nerve, because your larynx and your pharynx are actually obviously attached to that. And by breathing out, and you go, you do this, you know, after a hard day at work, you go home and maybe have a cup of tea or a gin and tonic, and you go, that was a nice day. And that signals to your nervous system that things are starting to be okay. That's another thing you can do to shift.
Nice, love it.
Then what we need, what we crave for, is from the moment we are born, we crave touch. We depend on touch, right? So no baby is born and says, I'm going to sit and meditate for 5 minutes and find myself. That's not normal. That's not normal. You need touch. You need touch. It excites curiosity. It excites learning. And so now, if you're by yourself, and obviously, and now in our situation with distance, touch may not be easy if you don't have somebody in your bubble. Even just doing this to your arms, even just stroking down your arms, it calms your nervous system. That's right.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. And if you'll know, there are techniques like qigong, where a lot of it is that you actually just bring energy and then just stroke down your legs or your energy centers. So touch is another one. And then shift when you feel what also with the assessment, the first step, what I find quite useful is to give yourself a score, like a set score, so your own units of distress. You know, from a scale from 1 to 5, how stressed am I? Is it a 5? Nice. Or is it a 4? And then keep doing that, because then that's also a way to notice whether you're going up or down the ladder. Okay.
I like that, because and especially like say I work with accountants and bookkeepers the majority of the time, and it's like, it's how do you measure the intangible? And here we're talking about the intangible. So, how do we know if we're less stressed or less impacted by trauma or crisis events if we haven't evaluated that? So yeah, I love that. So, and I often use that in my coaching too. 1 to 10, what is it you want? Where do you want to be? I think it's a great tool. So thank you.
Fabulous.
Oh my God. I'm just checking in, Barbara. I'm so mindful of the time. It's like, we just got so much gold in here, Pete. So seriously, if you've got a question for Barbara, because we could talk until midnight. So,
and don't worry if we don't get through it all. That's fine. I will put it all in the little booklet, and people are welcome to like. So step 3, practice P. Yeah, A-S-P. What you can do is strengthen your vagal tone. That's something you can do now. So, for example, the breathing techniques, you can take cold showers. That strengthens your vagal tone. There's this guy, he's Dutch, I think, Wim Hof, the Iceman. They call him the Iceman. And his training course, I would love to go to one of his trainings. Fantastic. So he's got a whole science developed behind it. So ice and breathing actually strengthens your vagal tone. Hum and sing a lot. It's really important. My mom was super, super healthy until very old age. Then she had a little accident. She fell off a trike, off a bike, a trike, when she was, 88, I think. and she just recently, shortly before your mum, actually passed away at age 97. So, but she was a member in a choir for, I think, 50 something years or more.
Beautiful.
So singing, and again singing or playing saxophone, just because of this out breath. Yeah, because of the long out breath is really, really good for your vagal tone, your overall health. Externally, the practices that you can do is seek to connect with a coach, with an EMDR, so that reconsolidate your memory if you have sustained a trauma. That is now, we can do one session just on that.
Yeah, beautiful.
Seek massage, craniosacral therapy, I mentioned, acupuncture. And what you can do yourself to elevate your overall health is, of course, things like yoga, qigong, mindfulness, meditation, and then repeat. And the other external help that you can get yourself is, for example, supplementation. Look at nutrition. The neurotransmitters we saw before, omega-3. Give yourself good, healthy fish, contains omega-3. That helps with neurotransmitters, helps thinking, memory functions. Keep yourself hydrated. Do a regular detox, digital detox, physical detox. And yeah, so end of the story, you remember my client Ben. We did this process that I saw: hypnosis, timeline therapy, memory reconsolidation, eye movement therapy. And what he realized, that he got back to the stage where he was a baby, and that was the first time where he noticed, just of course in his imagination, that there were other babies all around him. And he said, oh my goodness, these poor babies, this is not right. And that was the first time where empathy came online, where he actually was healed enough to expand to the outside world. And then it's the matter of just healing and keeping doing it. And eventually, so the relationship improved. He was okay to sit in cubicles, because cubicles were like sitting back in his cot, trapped in the cot. It was okay with he still expanded and took on another job, got a puppy, so he was able to commit. Depression and the addiction were just not very relevant anymore. And that's how healing happened. So,
gorgeous.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
So
I
then
love that.
another phase, and that is eventually, when you're going through these phases, eventually you can ask yourself the bigger question: what is the bigger learning here? Here with our pandemic, what is the bigger learning here? And I remember the wonderful story that happened. We created a worldwide trauma Facebook group where we helped each other, because stuff after stuff was happening. And when the Oslo bombing happened in same year, 2011, I remember watching a news program, and the reporter stood in the middle of Oslo, Norway, and was totally speechless. And what she said was, gosh, look what hate can do. If hate can be so destructive, imagine the goodness that could come out of love. And I thought, how fantastic to ask yourself such a really good question in this moment, right?
Such good questions. Good questions are just quality question, quality life.
Quality life, and then it gets us back into what we often talk about, get back into your heart, the breathing into the heart space, into the diaphragm, belly breathing. And one thing that certainly happens is that you become resourceful, resilient, and a lot more courageous.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So how are we doing with time now?
Oh, we're doing great. So it's 4:22. So yeah, you've done great. I know you've whizzed through. I know there's so much more you can give.
I know.
And that's the beautiful thing, right? Because if all you could give was in an hour, then that'd be a challenge. So
it was really challenging to put this into such a but I like yourself, I think self-esteem and respect has a lot to do with keeping time and being on time. So let me just share one last
Sure.
here.
I really love the 3 steps. Just while you're doing that, I'll just talk. So the 3 steps you've given us, the ASP is assess, shift, and practice. So assessing is around that crisis checklist, and that you can make for yourself or get some support. Barbara's got a book that she's going to share with us. You just need to reach out and let us know if you want it. So that's all cool. And then you talked a bit about how with the shift is really that what I get from that is that real pattern interrupt. And that's the stuff that I work with as well, around being able to, because when people are in crisis, we loop, right? We loop when we're in crisis. And this is where, my brain geek comes in, and it's breaking that pattern. And I work a lot with mental fitness around that and the simple strategies of pattern interrupt. So Barbara's talked here about breathing, about things like Wim Hof. There's a lot of leaders out there, a lot of people that are sharing things like this. So, you've got touch, you've got all of our senses. We've got 5 senses that we can use for interrupt, right? So come back to the senses, and it's that the power of it is the absolute attention to it. that's where we can interrupt our thought processes, where we change the neural pathways. And then, of course, it's that practice of shifting that so that we can then change how it is that we have in the past perhaps reacted to trauma, yes, or reacted to stress. So we start to develop a new way of doing things. So it's just, oh, I just get so juiced and excited about this stuff, Barbara. So now I'm going to shut up so you can finish it off.
The amazing thing, fact is that we grow, we transform, and we grow through going through this. The book, you remember when we met, I talked about my Surviving Canterbury book that it still needs to be written. In the meantime, I wrote this other book. But the Surviving Canterbury, and the subtitle was Metamorphosis Through Trauma. And I really believe in it. I really believe in that. If we go through it and if we heal through it, we grow beyond belief. And
I think that's where we really connect to, Barbara, is that I truly 100% believe that as well, is that the life testing you and thriving through trauma is absolute. It is the gold. It's not what you become or what you achieve, it's who you become. And that is the real gold. And I just love that stuff. It's not fun when you're going through it necessarily, but when you get out the other side and having these tools that you're giving us are just gold. So thank you so much.
It is, So again, I'll send you that booklet, Simonne, and please do share it. I will also add to it. I mentioned Qigong before. There is a beautiful exercise that you can do by listening to it. And nice. It's called the Inner Smile. And and that run, so it brings, you create a smile and then you run it through your various system, your endocrine system, your system. And what I like is also it has an eye movement part of it. And the eye movement part of it is actually in itself is a memory reconsolidation process. We do this at night, nice. The REM sleep phase.
Yes.
That's where we reconsolidate all the millions of bits of information that we intake during the day.
Who else is loving this as much as me? Come on, team. This is gold. We'll just sit here till midnight, Barbara, okay?
Right. So that is the and then just a 5-minute relaxation. I'll give you the link to a video. It's a voice, but I just put it on top of a video. And then I hope that will be of use, because I'd like us all to become part of this team that goes for world peace. So
yeah, absolutely. We're on the same team.
That's right. So, cool. And if anyone wants to get in touch with me, these Beautiful. Are my details.
Excellent. And we'll share those in the email that goes out with the recording tomorrow too, with your permission.
Fabulous. Yeah? Absolutely fabulous. Yeah. At the moment, I'm not. I can see people via Zoom. I do that.
Beautiful. And did you like it, everybody? Sorry, Barbara, just to interrupt, but did you just like how she kind of just dropped in that, anyway, I was going to write this book, but I wrote another one. I just love how she just kind of dropped that in. So yes, she's Barbara is a beautiful author, and what great to know that you're on the right track. Awesome. Yes, stories of becoming myself. So beautiful. So so if you want a copy of Barbara's book, then you've got copies to sell, haven't you, Barbara?
Well, it is through Amazon, and our book writing coaches. It goes through their account if you order it through Amazon, apart from it being really expensive to ship. Through my Amazon author page, you can order the PDF, or I
Great.
have another delivery coming. So that goes through the Amazon printing services in Australia, ingoa. And,
okay.
and then I can ship
It's
it
a
out.
complicated world now, isn't it? We'll put, if you want the copy of that book, that's different. It's a pile of different authors. So one of the stories in there is Barbara's, but I can vouch for it being a great read. And has anyone got any final questions? Because we are over time, so I am just mindful of that. Well, we're actually on time. So if anyone's got any questions for Barbara, please do throw them in the chat. I know you probably got 100 questions and you're going, oh, fight, flight, freeze. Which one do I ask first? So all is not lost. If you think of a question afterwards and you think, oh, I really wish I'd accessed Barbara's smarts, please just send it to us. We're more than happy to connect you with Barbara. And of course, there's a load of ways that either Barbara or myself can help you if you are in crisis or in any shape, form of trauma or in fight, flight or freeze. Please do reach out, okay? No one needs to be there for too long. Barbara and I are examples of that, of having gone through enough crisis and knowing that it will probably go through more. So, that's okay.
That's right, yeah.
Awesome. So thank you so much, Barbara. It is just almost gut-wrenching that you are so close yet so far. Yes. And I really appreciate your time and expertise. Yes, everybody, share some love in the chat for Barbara. It's been so amazing having you on. I know that this time of day isn't necessarily your best time of day for being able to share time with us, so I appreciate your flexibility and for getting your 3 steps to us. It was just awesome. And yeah, I just can't wait to hear more from you, and we'll have to bring you back in.
It's been great fun. It's been great fun. And thank you everyone for your time. It's just fantastic to give each other this time. This is such a valuable currency, time, right?
Yeah, gosh, yeah, don't get it back,
and
right?
You're a wonderful moderator. I just love it, Simonne. It's that's your thing. It's your, apart from resilience, doing this is it's your superpower.
Oh, maybe I should. I joke about being the next Ellen, but maybe I'll go for Graham Norton. What do you think? Anyway, I appreciate your feedback, darling.
Just be you. I'm fine. I'm going to get your autograph.
Thank you, darling. Yes, I'm good at being me. I appreciate your feedback. Okay, guys, thank you so much. Thanks. As always, really appreciate your attending. Thank you so much. Bye.